some point, you realized you were being moved, not by your own will, but by the subtle tugs of someone else's agenda. Manipulators are architects of reaction. They have spent years building a map of your weaknesses, knowing exactly which button to press to make you defensive, guilty, or compliant. The Stoics understood that the moment someone gains control over your emotions, they gain influence over your mind. But there is a way to tear up their map. It doesn't require aggression or volume. It requires the pause, that sacred space between stimulus and response, where your freedom lives. Today, we explore 10 questions rooted in Stoic philosophy that shift the power back to you. When you ask these, the manipulator's certainty collapses, because they thrive on your confusion, not your clarity.
Most manipulation survives through emotional noise. A manipulator will state a judgment as if it were a law of nature. Stoicism teaches us that men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. By asking this, you force the manipulator to move from the realm of emotion to the realm of reason. You are applying the Stoic discipline of assent to impressions, refusing to grant their words automatic authority over your state. When you demand a distinction between reality and their opinion, their leverage through provocation disappears. This question is a mirror. Manipulators aren't usually searching for truth. They are searching for emotional confirmation. They want to see the tightness in your jaw or the tremor in your voice to know they still have access to your inner state. When you ask this with calm observation, you expose their dependence on your reaction. You are no longer the passive recipient of their drama, but an active participant who sees the transaction for what it is. Epictetus, who was born a slave, understood that the only true freedom is the power to direct your own attention and choices. Manipulators often disguise demands as requests to exploit your guilt. This question establishes a boundary of ownership. It forces them to acknowledge whether they respect your agency or view your time as a resource they can draw on at will. It reminds them that your presence is a choice, not an obligation. The Stoics believed the greatest danger was unconscious living, becoming controlled by the approval of others while convincing yourself you are still free. When a manipulator tries to pull you into a gossip cycle or a pointless conflict, this question centers you back on your inner direction. It signals that you are no longer calibrating your life to satisfy unstable external standards, but to align with your own values. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Manipulators use emotional storms to compress time and force you into a reactive state. By asking for logic, you slow the interaction down. You are refusing to mirror the instability in front of you. This delay is the greatest remedy for the manipulator's tactics, as it allows your judgment to return while their performance collapses under its own weight. This is the law of ownership in action. Manipulators love to blur the lines of responsibility, making you carry weight that was never yours to carry. Stoic wisdom asks you to audit your energy, pour yourself into what you can control, and release the rest. By defining jurisdictions, you stop being an emotional management system for someone else. You reclaim the units of attention they have been stealing. This question tests the scarcity of your availability. If their support or friendship disappears the moment you set a boundary, then their allegiance was always circumstantial. The Stoics taught that we should not fear disappointing the crowd to remain honest with ourselves. This question reveals whether the relationship is a mutual investment or a dynamic built on your effort and their participation.
At some point, many of us outsourced our self-worth to the external responses of others. We over-explain because we are auditioning for approval. Asking this question reclaimed your sovereignty. It asserts that your internal metric is the only assessment that endures. It communicates that you are content to be thought foolish or stupid by those whose standards you do not respect. Seneca observed that most of the energy we spend defending ourselves is wasted. Pointless arguments are just contests of emotion where one person tries to protect an identity rather than find truth. By naming the game, you interrupt the pattern. You signal that you see the invisible hierarchy they are trying to build and that you refuse to participate. Sometimes the most powerful question is the one you do not ask. It is the strategic silence that leaves an empty space the manipulator must fill. The Stoics knew that what is freely available is never valued. When you withdraw your reaction, you become impossible to manipulate because you have removed the prize they were hunting for, your peace. You are not falling apart. You are being rearranged into someone who can no longer be moved without consent. Carry this clarity forward. Let your presence matter more than the noise around you. Because the truest power is not controlling others. It is the deliberate governance of yourself. I choose my response, not my circumstances.